I think the need to express yourself is deeply inherent. It's a characteristic that people have because it's what's inside of you. Know that that is there for a real reason, and that is your power, that's your strength, because that's what drives your creativity, is that thought of thinking, what else can I do different? Your mark is not going to be like everyone else's mark. It's going to be yours. And so don't be super critical on whether or not it looks like the next person's. What's relevant to you is the power and the strength that you feel when you find that image, that symbol, that word, that whatever it is that brings you that empowerment.
We as Indigenous people, we're just creative and outspoken in our own right, and that's how we told our stories and shared our stories, was through the adornment of symbols and objects, again, on our clothing, down to everything we did, through the things that we, acquired through dreams, and that we were able to discern by being in touch with the realities that were there during those current times. And those again told the stories, bless you. And those again told the stories of how, life meant what it meant for us. And so the parallels of doing graffiti in the modern times and the parallels of doing, storytelling, like, it's just a natural part of human expression, is just being able to tell your story and to tell people basically, hey, I was here. And that's essentially all that graffiti is. And, growing up in the era that I grew up in, and having to survive a lot of perilous times and a lot of dangerous times, it helped to strengthen my resolve to be able to continue to tell a story about what it means to be Indigenous. And so this goes hand in hand with the graffiti culture because of the reality of what it is. It's going up and painting on walls, whether or not they're yours, they're in the community, they're there. And you're going up there and you're telling your story on that wall, you paint your name, and then you're finding a way into that place, you're finding a way out of that place, you're encountering obstacles that people don't encounter naturally every day to day. It's like almost being a superhero. You go out and you fly around at night and then you paint your name. They don't know how you got up there. They don't know how, you were able to get there with all your materials and you come away with it, because again, there were some very perilous times, of being in situations where, the danger was very real, and whether or not you made it home that night or made it back to wherever you were sleeping at, and whether or not you had a home, those kind of things were where they were at. So that's just a little bit about like what graffiti is and how it ties into Indigenous culture. And I'm going to share a little bit about some photos and images about where I started from. And so when I went to Salt Lake City, I learned how to do everything that I needed to do, to live within that culture and to respect the game as it is, and to respect the culture in and of itself. I learned my roots. I learned how to do what I needed to do, and I learned from the people who were around me and what they showed me. And I carried that back here to South Dakota, and I realized that, there's a story that needs to be told. And going back to the idea that it's going out and painting your name out there, that I realized that there was a power in that there was a power to capture people's attention in a way that was outside of the realms of what this society would have you do in terms of, the capitalistic ideas that you need to pay to play, and you need to be able to be there in a way where your presence is acknowledged by how they deem it should be. And graffiti is everything on the outside of that. And growing up in Indigenous community, and we're never allowed to be who we are as Indigenous people, as Lakota people. We were, through the history of it, we were erased to a certain extent. We were not allowed to exist. And, so it just fit perfectly for me to be an Indigenous Lakota graffiti writer going up. And I considered that back in the day when I'd go up and hit a tag or go up and catch a piece, I considered that counting coup. I started this way back in the early 2000s, 20 so years ago. And this first mural was I put it up for my sister, who at the time, had gone through a very excruciating experience. Somebody had hurt her very, very badly, and for the fact that it might trigger somebody or be hurtful, I'll leave it at that. I had the ability to be present in the community in a way that didn't allow people to negate me just by, oh, he's an angry Indian, or he did something just because somebody made him react in it. And what I ended up doing was creating this mural to help her, to show her that, hey, we care for you, we're here for you, and that whoever did that to you, they're going to be gone now, but this will always be here for you, and the word above that is the word persist, and the idea that she would see it every day, and that it would be a part of her environment every day. And so that carried me forward to see that there was more to it than writing my own name. Moving forward, these are some of the works that I did down in Pine Ridge. I'm gonna go back to this one. This one's still up. This one right here is still up. And I should say this in a note that there is little to no graffiti done on this. And that's a statement in and of itself. The stuff that I had done, is respected and it stays there. There have been generations that have been raised around the stuff that I have done. What helps people to be able to see what's possible for them, because again, the lifestyle that I've lived and the lifestyle that this has brought me through has definitely made it one that has brought me to realizations and to be able to dismantle what's going on in terms of stereotypes in society as a whole. Because growing up as a graffiti writer, the idea connotation is that of criminal, and that's what the majority of people want you to believe. And I should share with you as I'm sitting here now that, that's been a part of my past, but I only have my GED and I got that from my alma mater, South Dakota State Penitentiary. And growing up through here in Rapid City, in this harmful place that, if you're not of the might, then you're not what's right, and so that is a way to say that there's a huge oppression here, and it's not a secret. And to speak on it is not something that is wrong. And that's what people have tried to do to me by bringing up and saying that if you speak about it, then you're just trying to cause trouble. No, that's not true. There's been a lot of harmful things and very malicious and just dirty things that have been done here in terms of what's happened to Indigenous people. And so again, I use that first initial reality of what happened to my sister, and realize that same thing happens to our people time and time again. And so I'm going to use the very walls that they put up around us, to tell the story of Indigenous people. And I'm going to do it in such a way that help people to understand that is a reality for them, that they have the ability to do that, and as it is so here in this state, I've been forced through a lot of really hard times. One of those times was, going through a situation of having a trial experience where I faced life here, and I had my innocence proven after 521 days, and I went to trial for that, and that is very real because that's a part of who I am. That's a part of who I am, is challenging the system, challenging what is, challenging how it's supposed to be by the people who believe that they have the right to dominate perception in reality. It's not something that I believe is there for them to continue to have, as far as creating narratives that people should abide by or be obedient to or acquiesce to, because as what I'm learning now as the definition of an artist is that it's a responsibility to be able to change that narrative, to question that, and to bring other people into the reality of that, to show them that, hey, that's not the way it is. I'm very thankful to everybody who's ever helped me at any point in time, that has ever given me a chance and said, hey, you believe in yourself and you have that kind heart to help others and be able to do that in such a way, that'll be returned to you. That'll continue to bless you up, and that's no joke. So those are things that I found for myself in the reality of what it takes to be there, because I've used every single opportunity that I've ever gotten to help uplift others. I've created, again, art shows, I've created jobs, I've brought other people onto murals, so many people, I've taught so many classes throughout the years that I now have grade school students that have gone on to college, and they still contact with me. They still say, hey man, I remember when you told me this. I remember you know. And it's those things that that give me the breath to keep going, you know, because it was something that I had thought about when I was just starting. And, you know, especially when my son came into my life, you know, and Adonis, you know, I love you, son. And he would help me paint, you know, he would help me paint. And a lot of times it would be just me and him, you know, a lot of the times it would be just me and him painting. And, you know, the amount of sacrifice that I gave to put into this is something that if I had known ahead of time, I probably would have talked myself out of it, you know. There's a lot of times when I was sleeping in my car outside of my murals, you know, just roughing it, you know, no money, no nothing, just because I wanted to paint, just because I felt like I had to. It's what I did. It's a game for sure. You know, it's a game that people are, you know, not the game of graffiti, but the game of the capitalism world, you know. They take your ideas, you know, they don't pay you the respects that they should. But it's been a long road, you know, it's been a lot of twists and turns. But for one thing, for damn sure, is that it's made me extremely resilient. It made me extremely compassionate, you know, so I could feel, you know, and I understand exactly what it means to be in that place where you never understood, you never had that space, and you never get that chance, you know, because the people in power like to keep it that way. And I started doing this on the reservation, you know, which essentially is, you know, what essentially are concentration camps, you know, and that's exactly what they were. That's exactly what they are, you know, and that's something that was shared to me through, you know, the knowledge that was given to me through my family, you know. And so it's bringing the truth and the realities of those things to light in such a way that it gives people a new perspective, because there's not a lot of time where people have to spend in investing in who they are, you know, because it's about, you know, trying to make it to the next month, you know, trying to get enough money to get what you need. And so to have had the privilege to be able to transition a little bit from doing the murals and going out and going to France, New York, Chicago, you know, and doing it, you know, all on my own to a really real extent, you know, has given me a huge blessing to realize that there's more out there, to broaden my scopes, you know, to realize that there's more ways of thinking, more ways of doing stuff. Because if you're only seeing a certain picture, you know, that's all you know. You know, and so if there's anybody who's out there struggling and trying to find a way, or you're thinking, oh man, I shouldn't try this, you know, I shouldn't even do this because somebody else is doing it. No, just realize that that's a variant of what they're doing. You know, the only things that are given to you that you see are the things that you see. And there's nobody out there that has the power, the control, or the way or the will to stop you from doing whatever you want to do. You know, just don't be hurting people. You know, go out there, and if you have a dream to continue to follow what you want to do, you know, don't let anybody talk you out of it. You know, there was a lot of times that came up, you know, because I realized that if people are shown a problem, but they're not shown how to deal with it or to control it, they get used to it, and they force themselves to get used to it. And so a lot of what I do through my muralism too, and my education through my classes, is I show people how to deal with it, because a lot of the things that I encounter are people who are considered, you know, at risk youth, or people who are on their way back, you know, re-entering society through parole, or, you know, whatever, what have you. And because I have gained the knowledge that I have through, you know, all my self-discovery, I turn around and do my absolute best to give it back to them, you know. And a lot of the times it's not easy, and it shouldn't be, because it's healing, and it's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard, and it's gonna be tough, and it's gonna get ugly, and it's not gonna be fun, you know. And just the fact that there's a pretty picture on the wall, you know, a pretty picture in the gallery, you know, it changes that. But at the same time, you know, it makes a bigger impact, because it allows people to see that, you know, the story with it is a story that can be, you know, attributed to their life, and whatever they take from it is whatever they take from it, you know. And so that's been something that's helped me to realize, you know, what I can do, and how I can do it, and what I can continue to offer. Yeah. You know, before I started this, I was looking at all the pictures that I have, and I was trying to find the right ones to be able to tell all the stories that I have. But throughout this entire selection that you've seen here, there's been many stories, from painting on the reservation, painting schools down there, growing up in Manderson and doing that, to painting in different mural jams, festivals, different things like that brought me to those specific places. And realizing the full extent of what it takes to paint a mural is such a huge task. It's monumental, because you're talking about big walls, climbing up and down ladders all day long, and then going through the weather, going through the variants that happen. It could be humid, it could be hot, and you're dripping sweat all day. You're dealing with exhaustion, you're dealing with coldness, you're dealing with trying to keep yourself warm if it's cold outside. You're trying to deal with all kinds of different variant factors. And that was the same way it was whenever I was painting graffiti out there, before I got into all this, before the spotlight got put on me. It's the same way. You have to deal with all these factors. And so those things, in essence, helped me to build and helped me to grow and have a different outlook on what life is, and just how much I could continue to contribute to myself in preparation and knowledge and ability. And realizing that was something that I had control of, that was something that is given to me to be able to determine exactly who I need to be regarding these said situations. And again, those are things that a lot of people who grow up, aren't visibly shown, or don't have a demonstration in front of them, because of the nature of society as a whole, right? And when I talk about that society in the capitalistic world, it makes everybody into dog eat dog. It makes a lot of people into that rising above one another. The clout-based society where if you don't have this, you're nobody. If you don't do that, you're nobody. And the reality of it is your self-worth is not determined by what you have or don't have. Your self-worth is determined by what you believe in yourself to be, and what you do for yourself as far as healing and growing and nurturing that spirit within yourself, to know that your life is independent of what other people think about you, because it's your own life. That breath that you're breathing right now, that's your own. And when you came into this world and you took that first breath that Creator gave you, that was your declaration from that point on, that your sovereignty relies solely upon you. Nothing changes that. There isn't a person in this world that can take away from that, ever. And it's on you to keep building that for yourself. And it's on you to keep developing that for yourself. And it's on you to believe in yourself enough that what you think, what it comes into here, is sacred enough, and powerful enough to be able to be shared with everybody out there. You don't got to be like everybody else. You just got to have the strength to be yourself. And that's something that was fine-tuned for me through all the things that I ended up facing. The adversity, all the tribulations and the trials. The very fact that I can do these murals is very cathartic for me. It's a cathartic release. It basically helps me to work through the emotions that come up in my life. It helps me to be able to deal with things that I'm processing at the moment. It gives me the opportunity to again find myself in a place where I find it meditative, and working with all the different colors, working with all the people involved, helps me to be able to find a new way to relate to people, relate to situations, relate to opportunities. But as far as and that's always a continuation of mental health, but it's definitely helped me to be able to process a lot, and because it was something that was always there for me before the murals, when I was, inside those boxes, locked away, for years, that I always took to. It was what I did. I drew, and I drew, and on the inside, on the other side of those walls, over in SDSP, there's an amazing amount of artists there, amazing amount of creatives that people don't even know about, man. And their stuff is just, whoa. it's given me the chance to share that with other people and be like, well, you know, this is what helped me, you know, and then it helps to gear their mind towards what, you know, what they can do to help themselves. When I first started, you know, I looked at a lot of the pioneers, and graffiti wasn't originally culture that belonged to just one race. You know, it was extremely multicultural. It was something that was shared by everybody, and that's what I found the most appealing. You know, and for me, it was a lot of the West Coast influence with a mix of the East Coast, and so some of the ones that I vibed with were Cess from New York, and Saber from AWR MSK. You know, I gotta give a shout out to some of the people who was here. You know, that when I came up from the res, you know, painting all over the res with, you know, some of the grandmas getting mad at me, you know, asking why I was painting on everything. You know, so coming up here, you know, there was a lot of people that I saw that were already had things popping, you know, and shout out to Coda and Rest, you know, and those are some solid writers right there. You know, and there's been a couple other people that were here, but the main focus for me was always, you know, my people, you know, Indigenous people, because I knew the struggle, what it took to have to go through that day to day, and just being Indigenous was a struggle in and of itself. So I always looked at them first. Going into the schools, some of those kids, you know, I tell them who I am. I said, my name is Focus. And just watch those eyes get big, and they're like, damn, you know, and they're talking to themselves, and I hear words like legend and stuff like that, and I'm like, nah, man, I'm just like y'all. You know, I grew up here. You know, I've been in these schools like this. I've been in the at-risk schools just like these. It's like there's nothing else here that would be, you know, indifferent. You know, but that's a very big thing for me, is that I want to continue to share that with people. Personal disclaimer that what I say and that what I've shared here is my own thoughts, you know, and I say that to continue to ask for peace for those people who don't need to have that misplaced anger and hate put upon them. You know, I've learned enough for myself that, you know, I carry myself, and so what I've said and how I've said it, you know, I stand by it. But, you know, again, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for everybody that came, and thank you for your time.